Today is March 1st, 1988. This is Joe Todd, an interview with Miss Ethel Baumgartner in Woodward, Oklahoma.
Baumgartner, not Tim, not T-E-N.
Oh, Gartner.
T-N-E-R.
Okay. Ma'am, where were you born?
Huh?
Where were you born?
I don't understand your pidgin English.
Wants to know where you were born.
What?
Where you were born.
Where was I born?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
In the state of Missouri.
Missouri. And when is your birthday?
February 12th, 1885. Me and Lincoln are the pals.
Who was your father?
Abraham Lincoln. What?
Yes. Who was your father?
Who was a what?
Your father.
My father.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, my father was by John Baumgartner, who came here for Switzerland.
Tell me about his trip coming to the United States.
What?
Have you heard about his trip to the United States? Your father coming over.
Why, I guess he'd heard about it. He had an uncle living in Missouri. Southern Missouri. And the ship landed at New Orleans, and they had to take a smaller vessel and go up the Mississippi River, and his uncle met him there. I guess his uncle met him. Probably, I don't know what he did. I don't know whether he stood for him or not.
How old was your father when he came over?
But I told you that before. He was 18 years old when he arrived here. How many more times do I have to tell it? He was 18 when he arrived in the United States. And as soon as he could, he became naturalized. You know what that is?
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
What type of ship did he come over?
a sailing ship. Just sailed. You've seen pictures of sailing ships.
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
How long did that trip take?
well, as far as my father thought they were on the water over 60 days.
Did he relate any incidents to you that happened on the trip?
Why, yes. A number of the people traveling died on the way and had to be dumped overboard. You couldn't bring a dead body into the country. You knew that. If they died on the ship, they were buried at sea.
Why did he come to the United States?
Why did he come?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, good God Almighty, what do you... I couldn't tell you that, because I don't know. I presume he thought it was a wonderful place.
And who was your mother?
Huh?
Who was your mother?
My mother?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, she was... Her family name was I don't really know her family name. I couldn't tell you that. But she was born in this country, in the state of Iowa.
Iowa.
Ulrich? Ulrich?
What?
Ulrich?
Uh,
Was that it?
You're asking for something I'd have to guess at.
How long did the family stay in Missouri?
In Missouri,
Yes, ma'am.
I couldn't tell you.
How old were you when you moved to Oklahoma?
5 years old.
5 years old.
Uh-huh.
And where did the family settle in Oklahoma?
Well, we were living in Missouri on a farm in the northeast corner of Clark County. There's where I was born. And the Cherokee Strip was opened to run for settling, you know. It was open to the country to make a race and settle, but my father did not do that. He bought a piece of land instead.
Where was the location of the land he purchased?
Missouri!
No, in Oklahoma.
Well, that was in Oklahoma. He bought a piece of land. He didn't make a round of church for the Cherokee land.
Do you remember the trip to Oklahoma?
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
No, I don't. All I know was that we brought some horses and some machinery, and we had a complicated train. There was one passage, there was one, you know, my mother and I rode in that, and my brothers were older, and they rode with the horses and the machinery that way.
Yeah.
And they had a back, one famous horse on. He wouldn't be led, but they could back him on the train. You may have seen such things done.
So you came from Missouri to Oklahoma, and you got off the train where?
We got off the train at a place called North Enid. North Enid.
Was the farm your father purchased near North Enid?
Yes, it was.
How large was North Enid at that time?
How large was what?
How large was North Enid at that time?
Oh, I couldn't tell you that. Probably had a dozen or two people.
As a small girl,
I wasn't interested in how big the town was.
as a small girl, what chores did you do on the farm?
What chores?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I fed the chickens and I carried water for the little peach trees to keep them from dying. I kept the little peach trees alive, and about the age when they were about 5 years old, they began to bear peaches. The place that my father bought was fed by a spring. Had nice cold water, and I carried water from that spring and kept the little trees alive.
How far did you have to carry the water?
Oh, Christ. Not 100 miles. That's the most asinine question I ever heard of.
What type of house did you live in?
What?
What type of house did you live in on the farm?
Well, part frame and part sod. The sod house was cooler and warmer.
How large was the
And
house?
it had a sod roof. They were not bad at all. A good sod house was a pretty good thing. And pretty safe to use in the case of a storm.
How large was the house?
I couldn't tell you. I'm sure I don't know.
Would you describe the furnishings you had?
No, no. We took a few pieces of furniture from Missouri down there.
Besides watering the peach trees and feeding chickens, what else did you do on the farm?
Well, not very much. When I found out where there was a school at a little town called Lahoma, why, I went to school there. I walked 3 miles to school.
One-room school?
And they decided that that was too long a walk for a little kid like me. So they bought me a little pony. So I rode the pony.
Was it a one-room school?
And my brothers walked.
Yeah.
Brothers walked and I rode the pony.
What was your teacher's name?
Huh?
What was your teacher's
I
name?
couldn't tell you to save my soul from hell. That's the impression it made on me. I don't remember. How would you expect a 5-year-old kid to remember all those things? And I'm now 103. If you're asking the damnedest fool questions I ever heard of. And I don't know what you want to do with it. But I'm not going to give you any more guesses.
How large was the farm?
The farm?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
How did you celebrate how did you celebrate Christmas at school?
Well, Christmas, kids all had to take part in some kind of a Christmas program.
What type of program?
Recitations.
What type of gifts did you
I used to be
receive?
pretty good at remembering, so
Would you recite something for us now?
what?
Would you do a recitation for us now?
My reputation.
Recitation.
Recitation.
A poem. You know a poem?
What kind of recitation?
Oh, you told me a good poem the other day that you say.
Huh?
You told me a good poem you said the other day.
I wouldn't call that much of it.
Well, I thought it was good.
Would you tell me?
Huh?
Would you tell me the poem?
What did you say?
He wanted to know if you would tell him the poem.
If I would tell him.
The poem. Yeah, that you say.
It's too silly.
No, it's
What
not.
this so-called interview is so silly. What the heck you want to do with it?
Learn something from it.
I'm not anxious to have my name appear in the paper.
Oh, your name won't be in the paper. This is not for the newspaper.
Well, then what do you want it for?
For the museum.
Well, I tell you, I got a broken leg between the hip and the knee on this side. And I'm still taking care of that.
Do you remember Statehood Day?
No.
Do you remember the day Oklahoma became a state?
No, I don't.
Do you have any memories when the Spanish-American War started, the war with Spain?
No, I heard about the war, but I don't know when it started.
How far from North Enid was the farm? How many miles?
Well, about 12 miles, just about.
Did your father purchase supplies in North Enid or Lahoma?
Well, our address was Lahoma, Lahoma, Lahoma.
Is that where your father purchased supplies?
Well, there was no farm there to be purchased.
How long would it take to drive from the farm to Lahoma in a wagon?
I couldn't tell. That depends on the speed of your trotty horses.
How many horses did you have?
I don't know.
Do you recall the maintenance your father had to do to keep the wagon in working order?
Yes, he had to keep the wagon in working order.
How? What did he have to do?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you that.
How long did you live in the house that was half sod and half frame?
Half what?
The house that you lived in on the farm, you said was half sod and half frame.
I don't understand you. Half what?
The house that you lived in on the farm. You described the house.
Well, maybe it was a lie. I don't know.
How long did you live there?
Well, I couldn't tell you that. I don't know. But I know when I was 5 years old, they let me go to school.
Was that a one-room school?
So. And then they found out I was a good runner, so I could play ball with the boys in ball game. And also I could spell, and I could spell all the country down. And then they took me all around over the little surrounding towns to beat the others for spelling bees. And I did. and I was left the only one standing in my group that was still standing. I wasn't spelled down yet. Well, it was a great life.
Did you ever travel to Guthrie, the capital?
Did I ever what?
Travel to Guthrie.
To Guthrie.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't recall it. We did. Wasn't I know the town of Guthrie.
How long did you live on the farm?
Well, I couldn't tell you that exactly.
When you left the farm, where did you go?
Well, we still lived on the farm.
You still lived on the
Had
farm?
nowhere else to live.
Okay. World War I.
Yes, World War I. I was living in New York City when World War I came along. Quite a change from...
Why did you move to New York City?
Oh, Christ almighty. If you could pick up any sillier questions to ask. And what the hell do you want to do with them?
It goes in the museum.
Well, you don't need to know, and you're not going to find out any more from me.
Well, tell me about Armistice Day then. The day the war ended.
I don't know.
Did you celebrate?
Did I what?
Did you celebrate when the war ended?
The First World War?
Yes, ma'am.
Why, sure, I celebrated. Everybody did.
What
We
did-
all paraded up down Fifth Avenue, New York. Peace was here again.
Did you go to Times Square? In New York?
What?
Did you go to Times Square in New York?
Oh, yes, Times Square.
Tell me about it.
Well, you wouldn't know any more about it than I do now if I did.
Maybe.
You sure picked the wrong person when you picked out me to give you information.
Oh, I don't think so.
Because I'm finished.
Are you through?
Yes, I'm through.
Okay. Now come back sometime?
No,
Okay.
I don't ever want to see you again.
Okay.
Yes, too damn many silly questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Take your equipment and get out.
Yes, ma'am.